What's the difficult thing about being a contractor here is that you need a qualification as well. They call it qualification license, and you need to have this. And according to the Chinese system, this is like super detailed, yeah. And I would say they have about 12 different industries within construction, yeah. And in those 12 different industries, you get a license for one special industry in 4 different stages. So it looks a little bit like a Greek temple, you know. You have all those pillars, and all those pillars, they're like intersected. And you have special requirements in terms of headcount, number of engineers, registered capital for every section you are in this in one pillar, yeah. And once you get a special license for one section, you're allowed to undertake a certain size of project, yeah, in terms of being square footage or in terms of height, yeah. Basically those two, yeah, square footage and height, and those requirements are very hard to fulfill, yeah, because you need to have those people on board, and you need to have those people on board to get the license. So you need to have many people around even before you found any business. That's it. That's actually the big problem about this, yeah, and. Good, this is the system. Now, before 2002, when China was aware actually that they still need lots of technological input in terms of construction, they allowed for a base-to-base license for foreign contractors, for foreign construction firms. Yeah, so you were able actually to tender for a project, and they said, okay, we know you people. You're like the famous Strabag from Austria or Germany. Yeah, you're very big. We want you. You have the technology. Good. Now, please go to this authority or that authority to give you the license for that. Yeah, this is how it worked, and this is the system which they all loved, and this was done away with in 2002. Yeah, and the first thing we said, now we're WTO now, so it should be the same. It should be the same playing field for everyone. Okay, so in those days we had actually to fulfill. Ever since then, we had to fulfill the same requirements as the Chinese. Yeah, difference was that once we fulfilled those requirements and we got a license. There was one really bad clause, and I don't know which provisions, not in the construction law, in some side provisions, we said actually foreign invested construction companies, they are restricted to WUFI and joint venture projects. Yeah, so you had really to put down a lot of money to get an interesting license. Yeah, and then you could only build actually factory halls for joint ventures or WUFIs. Yeah, so you had to invest a lot, and then you were super restricted, and this basically killed the foreign investing construction industry ever since 2004.
I didn't know.
Yeah, and I don't know. I know I've been working for the European Commission, for the European Chamber of Commerce, and in the construction, what do we call construction working group? Yeah. And we tried to lobby actually for years just to restore the old system, yeah, for foreign invested companies, and it was always a complete no. This would be unfair, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, but also you also need a certain kind of experience.
What do you mean?
Certain kind of project experience, yeah. And to help us, it was allowed actually to help foreign companies come in. It was allowed that you use foreign project experience, yeah. But of course, the project experience should be gained within China. This is what they hoped for.
Was there a minimum of experience that you had to have to enter?
You need a certain kind of experience to get a certain level of license. Yeah.
Okay.
So you need, for example, I don't know, for license B in civil engineering, you need to have 10 projects at a certain level.
Does each project also have to be of a certain value?
Yes, correct. Correct. Yeah, that's it. So this is actually the complex part of it, and this goes for construction itself as well as for design. It is super detailed, yeah. And you find here actually a certain kind of idiosyncrasy, I think, in the Chinese soul, yeah, to make something super detailed. It's like household registration, yeah, which is far too detailed. Yeah. And this is like a science in itself, yeah. And it is so complicated that many Chinese companies, they also have problems to get those licenses, and. In the beginning, this was meant actually to ensure quality. Because if you have so many engineers, if you have so much experience, you have so much cash in the bank, then you must be actually a strong and good company, basically, yeah? But then it turned out that only the biggest construction companies in China were able to fulfill those requirements. Yeah.
Okay.
But there were so many small companies who had no license at all, but who were cozying up to the big ones. Yeah. And were like, they called it borrowing the license. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so we had actually once a client, very interesting. He got a project and he was making a project down in the south, in Zhuhai. And well, it started, I think, in 2005, one of my first things around here, yeah.
Okay.
We were writing the contract and they started in Zhuhai and...
in Zhuhai?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Right.
And the partner of them, the construction company, was Beijing number 5 or something. A big one, yeah. A real big guy, one of those aircraft carriers.
Okay.
And it turned out that even though they had a contract with them, they never showed up on the construction site.
Right.
Yeah, it was Beijing Construction Bureau number 5, I remember now, yeah. And with an address in Beijing, Chang'an or something, yeah. Okay, they never showed up, yeah, because they immediately transferred the project to their local Zhuhai or Canton company. Okay, fair enough, yeah. They also didn't show up on the site, yeah. So they were looking like for a local team, yeah. We could call it a local shift or something, yeah. And this local shift, actually, they were doing the things, no?
Right.
But they were doing very locally. So nothing which I wrote in the contract was actually done on the site, yeah? And because you have to do things like you have a construction diary, yeah? Every day you have a log where you say, okay, today we did this and that, and then never done, yeah? And then, for example, you want to add on further workload, yeah?
Sure.
So you have those alteration orders, yeah, which is actually one of the things which they do very formally in terms of construction. Yeah? When first they discuss it, of course, yeah, maybe also via WeChat or something. But then they say, okay, now we discussed it, we know the price. I'm issuing now a formal variation order, yeah. And you sit down and you calculate once more if you can do it for that price, and then you send me like a formal confirmation, and then the contract has been amended to this effect. Okay. Yeah, very formal. I never knew why, but maybe it's because this idea comes from an English background where they like to make certificates and
a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, lots of
stamps.
Maybe. Yeah, but anyway, this is this is the normal way in construction to do it, and in terms of documentary work, probably it is superior. And yeah, many changes, but never did it like this. Yeah, in those days there was not even WeChat. I think they were communicated via SMS. Yeah, so those people, they were like happy, extra work coming in. Yeah, and somehow they also managed actually to get the local GM on their side, and had said on their side, I never know whether he meant it bad or whether it was just uncanny or whether it was just uncareful. Yeah, because he started. First, maybe one thing. First of all, I think the GM is here for business and not for construction. Yeah? Sure. So whenever the GM starts actually to take care of the construction project itself, then probably he forgets to do business. There's so much to manage, yeah, and that's it, yeah. He shouldn't be in the nitty-gritty of that, yeah. So many of our clients, which are later on encountered, they actually have real estate personnel within the firm, yeah, and they have like a real estate branch if they're bigger ones, like. The big ones like Coca-Cola or Adobe, they really have a real estate department. But also from the German ones, they have a real estate department with many people, and they take care of that. Yeah. And I hope I don't give away, but one of the big chemical guys within Germany, I think they have an engineering department with 50 people or something, yeah, worldwide. So it's a big one, yeah. And they say they also try to be. Savvy or something, yeah? Because like they say, okay, if we don't have enough work in-house, we are selling outside, yeah, as long as we don't breach any confidentiality. And this happens. So this makes sense. They should be taking care of that, yeah, because they know it. And if they don't have enough knowledge inside, they should be getting a construction project manager, yeah? And
of course, it makes sense.
That's it, yeah. And this is how they work together. So if the GM does it, it's pretty soon, I think, over his head. Yeah.
Okay. Should we go maybe a step back?
Yeah.
Maybe that you just introduce yourself. How long you're in China? What are you doing here? What is
I'd
your
love to do this. Yeah. Yeah, so thank you so much for rolling the ball back to me. My name is Johannes Weilharter. I'm coming from Austria. I'm a lawyer, and I'm working in a German law firm here in China. and we are taking care actually. Traditionally, it's foreign direct investment. Yeah, so basically, German companies, German groups, investors coming to China, setting up business here, setting up companies, buying land. Or I should say, acquiring land use rights, building factories, and registering their trademarks, their patents in China. Needing their employment contracts. This is, I think, our stronghold. And I think for all the other German firms as well. That's what we came for many years before. Apart from that, I mean, this is the setup business, which I would say still we are the experts in.
Of course.
And then it's a going concern. So you fire somebody high-ranking C-level here in China, then we're also helpful. And you have a problem with your patents, we can also help you fighting for them. Very interesting.
Really?
Your patent is infringed, we can help you fight for that.
Actually?
Yeah, absolutely. We did it a couple of times and we developed a couple of tricks which made us win. Yeah.
Interesting.
I'd like to step in another point. Can you explain what is the difference between buying land and getting land use rights?
Okay.
I think a lot of people, because it's something
okay.
very
It is,
specific.
to be honest, it is getting land use rights.
Yes, exactly.
But sometimes when I want to be easy, I just say buying the land. Because I don't want to overfreight the conversation. In if it's like acquisition-wise, I don't want to overfreight.
But I believe for the
you only have actually all the land within China, if I remember correctly, belongs to the state or to the local collective. And this sounds now super communist, but actually, once you leave Shanghai and you go out into the countryside, it belongs to the local collective. And which is basically the village. And then within, and it's farmland there.
Sure.
And within Shanghai, it belongs to the state.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
That's the way they do it, I think.
I don't mind it because a lot of people might think that, or they've heard that, you can only own your house for 90 years.
Yeah, it's true.
But then
70, I think.
70.
Right? I mean, we come to
But you can then always buy it back and then lease it for another.
This would be my next question. Because now some of those terms, they are starting to come to an end. What do you expect the government will do?
Okay, let me answer both questions because it's interesting. And now it comes up. If it's a good thing or a bad thing, I think in China they never knew it any differently. For us, of course, it's very unusual because if you're somewhere in Bavaria or in the west of Austria, where those farmers they were living there for hundreds of years on their piece of land, and they developed, of course, their own pride and their own traditions and their own culture. It's like, for example, one of the interesting things, and maybe this is. If you go in Austria, if you go to Tyrol, and you know that maybe it's not for all of our listeners, but no farmer would address you with Sie. It's only du, because they're like super flat hierarchy, flat hierarchy, and this is one of the things which developed there by I think having their own roots and having their own farms and having their own pride and having fought and won their own battles against Napoleon or something, being really somehow being free there, because it's easy to defend and it's easy to kick somebody out, and I think this is one of the things probably in a Chinese countryside you would never experience, that the farmers are somehow independent, that they are proud, that they go to church on Sunday, or not, but they have the chance that this is part of their DNA. And this is one of the things I think which you would not be experiencing in China. And without being mean, if you go to the countryside there, like back home, if you go to the countryside, it's normally clean and it is.
Fair enough.
And if you go to the countryside here, it's normally dirty, I have the feeling,
It depends where.
But they put the waste everywhere, and so. And within Shanghai, within the city or somewhere, it's much cleaner. It's proper, because people, that's one of the things actually which made me always feel a little bit astonished. No? And I think this is really the difference what comes from owning the land or just having land use rights.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It was quite interesting that you said here in China, the city, within the city it's clean. Outside it's dirty.
True.
Right? Forgive me if I'm mistaken. In Europe, I find it the other way around.
Absolutely.
Countryside, clean as a whistle.
That's it,
True.
In the city center, it's like. But
I even told my wife you can never ever go to a public park in Europe because it's like dog shit and drugs and all kind of stuff, right? And here it's like safe and
correct,
clean. And
That's one of the big differences, and I think it's the property to the land which makes the difference here. Because out there it belongs to the collective, nobody cares. Yeah,
and here it belongs to the state. They want to keep it clean.
And I could imagine that the farmers there in the countryside, they live a life a little bit like what we normally would say the Knechte, no? Like the servants. Yeah, they're living within the countryside, but the land doesn't belong to them. It belongs. Yeah, I have the feeling this is this kind of like an intermediate step. Yeah.
But what is the next step when let's say this land use right? Even somebody has an apartment, right? And usually they buy it for my understanding, either 70 years. If it's on a commercial ground, even only 40 years, right? This right to use it. So what do you believe the government will do next when these kind of rights expire?
If it's residential, the one for 70s, this is automatically extended.
Automatically,
by law? By law, yeah. Okay. For another, so this is really like ownership now, yeah.
And
until the building,
families have to pay for it.
No, without payment, no payment, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Unless it comes to their mind, yeah. Right. Because could be, yeah.
Because I heard that.
But this is residential, yeah. Yes. It is very different actually for commercial and for industrial, yeah. And we had clients before actually. They were interesting. They were somewhere in Pudong, having had a factory there, and their land use rights were about to expire in 2030 or something. And they had the feeling they got land use rights which were, I think industrial-wise, it's 50 years or something. You know? Yeah, and they wanted to invest. They wanted to invest big, like €1 billion or something, but with the land use rights like expiring in 20 years, and they don't knowing yet whether they would be able to extend it. They were not really sure whether they should be investing so much, and so they were asking us what the situation going to be like in 20 years probably, yeah. And then we called actually the authorities and asked, and then they said, guys, you were like kind of earlier, because the majority of land use rights is about the end of 1990 for 50 years, and you are asking us now for 2030. Right. To be honest, we haven't thought about it, yeah, and that's what they said. We haven't thought about it yet, but there is a good chance that you have to buy it again if you're industrial or commercial, yeah.
Because the value changed also.
Yeah, and then why is that? Because the law actually says once it is expired or once it's going to expire, you can apply for an extension. Okay. Yeah, that's it. You can apply for an extension. You should be doing so within 1 year before expiration. That's clear according to the law, and. The only thing and they also say like if the project is still interesting and if you're doing well and you can fulfill those contracts still, then they actually should be extending. That's what it says. Okay. So, so the government does not say, okay, well, you don't get it, and out you are. They should be extending. That's it. That's what they said. That's what the law says, yeah. But I think what it hasn't said, if I remember correctly, is whether to pay again. This is like an open blank, and probably an intentional one, because nobody thought of that. And I think the situation all governments are in for the time being, they probably would ask you to pay again.
I have a question here. Yeah. Imagine you're a German supermarket chain and you opened in 1996. So you bought a lot of land at this time in the outskirts of Shanghai. Meanwhile, it's Shanghai downtown. So the value of the land increased massively, right? 10 times, whatever, right? So this could be quite dangerous for those kind of companies, right? If they have to buy the land again.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because commercially it's a nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So this could even bring a situation that even more international business will be pushed out, intentionally or unintentionally.
Possibly, yeah.
It could
possibly,
be a result.
Absolutely.
So that's quite dangerous development, actually.
It is, yeah. It's dangerous for everybody. It's also dangerous for Chinese companies.
Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe it's easier for them to handle it, I think, because then it's easy for them to build the bridges to the officials, and I think that it's better for them to handle. But really,
But can companies get any type of government subsidies to help, or do they play a little, maybe not a major role, but maybe a minor role, where they support? Because I know that's like...
I think there are government subsidies, to be honest, but subsidy-wise, I think it is not as transparent as we're used from home, that there is like a subsidy catalog, which you could probably downloading or buying, yeah, and say, okay, now make a plan. I'm making a business plan. I have those 5 subsidies, and yeah, and we would probably say back home I have 5 on national level and about 5 on provincial level. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know whether such kind of catalogs exist for China. I never found any of them. Yeah, even though I would be very interested in finding them. But you can find some subsidies, of course. Yeah. So if you have a project, and probably one should say it is not bound to buying the land, but it's bound to the project which you have to construct and run on the land. Yeah. So you're getting subsidies for these projects. Yeah.
Just a question. Like, say these subsidies do exist. And would local government or like the government be more willing to take in foreign investments, to like bring back, open the gates and say, right, you come in, we'll give you subsidies, you can invest, build up a company, buy the land or rent the land, right? Or would they be more inclined to supporting the local? Say, just if they exist.
I think it really depends on the
project itself.
On the project and on the trade and on the line of business and industry we are looking at, yeah. Because normally the big tendency is they want to foster, and Chinese companies, I would say, yeah. Those are the ones they really would support.
Sure.
And basically foreign firms and foreign companies are allowed in fields where China still has to learn and catch up. Yeah. But if you're in one of the latter ones, if you say you have something which they need, then they definitely help you. Yeah.
Of course, there's a give and take.
But I believe some industries, like for instance the German car industry, everybody talks about it, right? A proven case that maybe it's not really wise to share all your knowledge and all your technology with China, because after a couple of years, they anyway kick you out.
Yeah, I mean, for the car industry, it's probably more than a couple of years. Yeah. So how long have you been doing well?
Decades.
Let's say they have done well for 30 years.
Yeah, probably.
And probably very well, yeah.
Yeah.
And and I don't think that they just overslept the development. Maybe they just didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, they're not stupid. So we like to talk very bad about ourselves, like that we're the complete fools, and that we haven't seen it coming. I don't know how this happened, that all of a sudden like a big bang and then you are out.
I mean, this kind of technology.
It's a little like Trump. Nobody saw him coming and now he's here, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this kind of technology transfer, I believe nowadays international companies are much more careful about it than 20 or 30 years ago.
I'm speculating, yeah, and maybe, but I have the feeling that, that's what we normally say in our firm, yeah, that of course there is this invisible hand in the background which is combining the technology, you know. Because if you bring in technology, for example, you have to register it, yeah? And this registration, normally you get it, yeah, but after registration, and I call it now the invisible hand, yeah, the invisible hand from the government knows which technology is where.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you know exactly which technology is where, and it's just my own explanation, it could be very different actually in reality. You could be saying, okay, now we have about 10, let's say that we have 10 to 20 companies within this area which are all dealing something in terms of battery or something, yeah? And maybe small elements of a battery or maybe small steps within battery and storage of energy, electrical energy. Now, why don't we use all those and combine it into one new company, yeah? Okay. And now the government sets up a new company and somehow invests this technology, which it knows where it is within China, into this newly set up state-owned company. Yeah. Okay, and all of a sudden they come out of the middle of nowhere and they're huge and they're strong and they're technologically advanced. Yeah. And nobody knows where this is coming. I think actually it's this invisible long-term planning hand behind the scenes, which makes the big difference here. Yeah?
So this brings us to a different point, which you are also working on in the consultancy, IP rights, right? So maybe you can do a little bit.
You're just a man of all trades, aren't you?
Yeah. Now our firm does actually lots of IPs. Yeah. So I hope I can answer all the questions because I said this was construction and real estate, which is the one thing I really had to specialize myself. Yeah. So this was the easy part. Yeah. But please go on there.
So regarding IPs, I believe a lot of Western companies brands and companies, right? It's both. They not necessarily feel that IPs are really protected here in China. Is this true, or is this? I mean, the law is the law, but the reality is reality. So how it's played here?
I'd say it's yes and no, actually. Yeah. So as you said, the law is the law, and the law is pretty good, I think, and it's always on paper. It's always pretty modern, the Chinese laws. Yeah. Many of them are actually even copied from German templates, or from other German laws, because they're feeling this is easy. It's not like this Anglo-American system, So they really want to have a continental system, and this is what I said. Then let's copy the German ones, they're well written and they're all pretty new, and that's what it did. So if you read the Chinese law, you never have the feeling that's strange, that's odd what they're writing. It's really like you upon first reading, you have the feeling, that's the thing you do, that's the way you do such kind of stuff, So it always looks very familiar, In terms of patents, I think it's also quite okay, to be honest, but lots of customs, the customs around technology and know-how is a little bit different, So that you have the feeling that somebody has a certain kind of know-how and everybody wants to learn it from him,
Sure.
Or for example, there are these stories, for example, that somebody from the Transrapid actually told me once, Like, I knew this accountant, and he told me this story that one day he forgot something in the company, so he went back. Going back, he found out, like, it was about, he arrived at 11 o'clock in the night, PM, and he found out all those offices are full, light is on, and people are searching for documents, making photos. So I think this is the big difference here, Nobody would actually really think that, I don't know whether this was still happening back home, I don't think so, Probably not, or maybe it should. I mean, I think it was the same like when the steam engine was invented. Everybody wanted to steal and copy, Even so, there were no photographs in those days, so you really had to steal. You had to steal the whole score, or you had to understand it,
It's something unique for China, certainly.
But for the time being, they're having this hunger and appetite, I think, That's, I think, is
for sure.
Or they had that's I think that's the big difference, And police don't quote me. Whether the government, like for example, really.
Well, you're on video, so.
I know,
You're 4K as well.
Let's say I had too much yesterday, so it's not me talking now. But this suspicion we just had of the invisible hand, whether this is really savvy in terms of cognizant and savvy in terms of the intellectual property of somebody else, I'm not too sure, Or whether they say, okay, we have this company who produces a little bit there, and then I'm not sure actually, Because this is only suspicion, because I'm really grasping here, But if I had to, I think this is one of the big difference. I would guess this is a big difference here,
Interesting.
And of course you could, if you played strictly by the rules, just imagine, you are like hiring those people from 20 companies which they have to use. You're hiring all the experts into your company, Okay, and then you start with lots of new ideas.
True. I mean, quite often IP rights also do not make sense. Like I figured now that in the US, for instance, the old Disney movies and Hollywood movies, they are now IP free, because the IPs have been protected like for
copyright free for
years,
70 years, I think it's 70
years. I mean, who needs to protect the Mickey Mouse movie, which is 70 years old? So
that's true.
Right. But I have a different question. I believe the Chinese economy, everybody talks about the Chinese economy. My personal view is suffers from 2 points. On one side is the export is not as strong as it should be, right? Because there's a lot of protectionism in the US and in the European markets. And on the other side, the demand is also not as strong as should be. The demand here in China. Locally, exactly. And one of the reasons why the demand is not so strong, and now I give the ball back to you, is because the real estate, a lot of people over-invested into the real estate, and this led to a situation where basically everybody felt very rich, right? And now people probably feel pretty poor because the real estate dropped dramatically. So maybe you can talk a little bit more about what is the situation here and how do you see this, and
You're right. I could imagine they over-invested into real estate.
Massively.
And they invested the best money at the best time, and now it doesn't grow anymore in terms of value. Yeah? And they would have lots of money if they were able to sell it.
Exactly.
At a higher value as they expected. So this interruption of the expectations now makes everybody cautious and actually poorer than they were before. Yeah.
I think many people
in terms of cash and everything.
Who own 2 or 3 apartments or 4 apartments, even I think they deeply regret because they only use one, right? And the rest is actually dead capital, right? They can't rent, they can't sell, right? So I believe that's a huge problem.
Absolutely. So much money is like bound in real estate. And I don't know whether it's actually ever getting better.
I hope.
I don't have this kind. Yeah, I hope
it does because a friend of a family friend's, he bought a house in Zhuhai in 2003. Right, in a renovated order. Very nice. Yeah. And I think he paid, around 100,000 euros for it, right? So like $1 million, plus minus, and then plus with the renovations and everything, right?
Million RMB.
Yeah, so $1 million RMB. I think at its peak, it was roughly around 20 to 25 million.
Wow.
They shot up.
Nice.
And
3 million US.
And now it's all the way back down to just 5. No, and he regrets that he didn't sell it because I believe, if I remember correctly, it was at its peak close to when the Zhuhai-Macau-Hong Kong bridge, right? Because they thought, oh, perfect, right? There's gonna be a lot of foot traffic and driving, right, back and forth. And he said, okay, I'm just gonna wait 2 more years. Wait until it goes up and then.
But I doubt it will come back because the population, be it not, is around 1.4 billion, 1.2, 1.4. Some people say it's even less than this, right? So there are a couple of numbers, right? But what we know for sure, I mean, we do not know for sure how big the population actually is, but what we know for sure is that the population is shrinking very, very fast, right? So the demand will shrink. So what I believe is that for tier 1 cities, but that's just my personal point of view, tier 1 cities like Macau, Hong Kong, right, Shanghai,
Beijing, Shenzhen,
it's okay, right? It won't come back, but it also won't drop too massively. But on the other side, personally, I have friends, for instance, who bought in some small city in Zhejiang or Jiangsu because they heard about train station will open there, and then they just bought from the scratch 4 or 5 apartments, just like, because that's the way how to make money previously. And I believe this kind of real estate is definitely dead.
Really? So like the lower tier cities, that type of
in the lower tier cities, like just now we talked about Changzhou, for instance, and I personally I lived also for a year in Changzhou, right? So this is, for instance, a heavy industrial city, which from my point of view, and correct me if you see it differently, suffers pretty much about one point. Changzhou is a city which is surrounded by other good cities, by other good tier 2 cities, like Wuxi, Suzhou, Nanjing, Shanghai is not far, right? So this leads to a situation that a lot of talent, local talent, they don't stay in Changzhou, they actually go to the other cities, right? So, which then leads to a situation that those kind of cities are aging pretty fast, right? Pretty dramatically. But on the other side, also a lot of new real estate has been built over the years. Who's using it later? There are no jobs anymore there, right? For young people, there's heavy industry, right? There's machinery, automotive, this kind of stuff, right? Shrinking demand here. And then a lot of elderlies, basically, they put all the money together, the families, that one child can have 2 or 3 or 4 apartments, right? Who's using this now in a city like Changzhou? You rent your place there. What's worth 3,000 RMB a month, something like?
And that's quite a lot for.
But you invested like 1 million RMB. You know, what is your return of investment? It's just crazy.
That is true, and especially in Changzhou, I had the feeling once you leave the train station and you go some to the business park, you're like driving 20 minutes through empty apartment blocks.
Yeah,
it's interesting, nice really. Area. Left and right, it's all empty, and it's really.
We have a nice area in downtown. But it's really only like maybe 2 or 3 nice spots. For the rest, it's really.
On the other hand, because I'm quite often there, I have the feeling that many companies actually, especially from the German-speaking world, they're leaving Suzhou by the argument that it's getting too expensive meanwhile, and they are moving to Changzhou.
Yeah,
Really?
the industrial park there
Really?
is growing. Yeah?
The SIP is like fully packed, yeah,
Okay.
but already since 10 or 20 years, yeah.
Interesting.
And if you want to get in, it's really expensive already, and the people know it actually, how attractive they are in Suzhou, yeah. So many of them, they're leaving Suzhou and say we're moving further west, and then it's Changzhou. And actually, Changzhou government is trying to get a big slice of that cake, you heard. And they also they're also troubled already with the phenomenon that people say, okay, Changzhou is also getting expensive. We are moving even further west to Anhui. Yeah? So they want to attract and retain them.
Anhui is the next big
Yeah,
district.
they want to attract and retain
And Suzhou,
foreign investors
this
company.
kind
Yeah,
of
correct.
city.
Yeah. Oh.
Gosh.
But I believe the real estate is a real big problem.
I want to ask this question regarding, because you just mentioned regarding that you can drive in downtown and it's completely empty. Explain to me, like I'm an unknowledgeable fool within this certain topic that we were talking about, right? That how did it come that in China that you can find not ghost roads but actual ghost cities, right? Why did local or the actual government invest so heavily in?
They earned a lot of money just on the sale of real estate. Yeah, and I'm saying sale again, on the grant of land use rights. That's the right term. They made lots of money on the grant of land use rights to state-owned land. I heard actually the majority or many, in average, I would say, local governments, the revenues which they needed to run their own cities, 2/3 came from the grant of land use rights. Yeah,
Right.
and one of the things which is now difficult for them because they can't grant so much land now, nobody wants to buy it.
Sure.
So yeah, they're lowering like the official salaries or something, yeah,
Actually.
or stopping bus lines or all the kind of stuff, yeah.
And then that's why then it becomes a ghost city because
No,
one
it used to be a ghost. I just want to say this is, and
Ghost.
this is why they have these ghost cities, because in the first place they had the feeling China is growing like enormously,
Sure.
exponentially, and they said, I heard this argument so often, you in the West, you always try to make business plans and you try to anticipate and trajectories and all that kind of stuff. But we in China, we know it better. We just build the city and then it's got to be filling up slowly. Yeah, this is actually, and they told us very often how China is different, blah 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 blah. Yeah, and I think this is also the thinking they had. So they had the feeling, okay, guys, we want to earn some money. We are now we're making new projects. We're granting land use rights. Yeah, we're looking for developers, and those developers were paying the money. And I think it's an interesting circle because either they had it already, or they got it by loan from a local bank.
Right.
So somehow I think it's also a triangle from.
Sure, the money goes from here to here.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, but at the end of the day, it was like in government coffers that they're feeling good business. Yeah, so they were building actually far too much. Yeah, and in the hope that it is going to be filling up, and possibly they also didn't have the right figures in terms of statistics. Yeah. I think nobody has, yeah.
Some people say this, yeah.
That's it, yeah. Like this is what we call the echo chamber or something. I think even as local governments, they didn't have the right figures, and so they built too much, yeah, definitely.
Sure.
And this is how it came, I think, yeah. Look like, and,
so it's a real situation. Ghost cities, ghost streets,
which are really, yeah. And I mean, what I just described, you leave Changzhou at the station, at the rail station, and then you go to the business park, and in between it's all these 20 minutes of empty apartments. So it's not really ghostish in the way that you have to go to the mountainside and then it's not like Shining that you have to go up on top and then you find it. No, they're really within the city, yeah, within.
I mean, even here in Hongqiao, where we have our office, right? First time when I arrived here around two years ago, right, for just coming over and having a look. First time in Shanghai, I was surprised that 70% of the offices were empty. But I was told it was because of COVID.
Offices is another point, not only apartments, also offices.
Right. Well, for offices, I think also there are too many offices all around.
Sure.
Yeah. And probably it's also not having the right figures or something. Because, funny, I remember when I just arrived, the Portman Hotel. this used to be in those days the most expensive piece of real estate in the world.
Sure.
Because everybody had the feeling they have
The
to
one
come.
in Nanjing is this one? Okay.
Yeah. Because everybody had the feeling we have to come to China, but there was no office space. Yeah.
Right.
So everybody wanted to rent this, but rent an office just there, and it was like super expensive. And then they were building, and until now they have too many. Yeah. And yeah. On the other hand, I mean,
But then you can also bargain the price down a little bit.
That's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can now, but it doesn't help the development.
No.
Yeah.
Same for shopping malls. I mean, I always have the feeling in China everything basically is an oversupply at the moment.
Shopping malls, I think, was a big surprise somehow, because I remember still in 2008, I have been part of I went to a lecture and they said actually China doesn't have enough shopping malls and we should probably be planning on 1,000 shopping malls or 10,000 shopping malls. Yeah,
At this
a
point
big
in
number.
time.
Right at this point of time, where I had the feeling if you come from Europe, you have the feeling there are malls everywhere here. You come on,
Because at this point in time, I remember we had discussions at Metro, right? We wanted to open more shops, right? At this time in Kunming, and then the planning bureau told us, okay, your store is here, right? And you can only build a next one 3 kilometers away from your own one, from Carrefour, from Walmart. So they really had a plan.
Yeah.
But I believe after the financial crisis, 2009, 10, 11, basically they just went full in, right? Built malls everywhere, actually.
Could be, but what really killed.